So the 3-man roster, you know, there were some surprise cuts yesterday, surprise guys that made the team. We're going to break that down. But first, we got some bad news. And this is, it's potentially crushing. Isaac Seumalo left practice, partial, maybe a torn pec. They think that's what it could be. Hope for the best, people. Let's hope for the best. Isaac Seumalo was our best offensive lineman last year, and frankly, it wasn't close. He was the best. One of the better left guards in the National Football League. If he has a torn pec and is out for the season, we're recording this on Wednesday, and he left practice today. That's crushing. That's just crushing. So, yeah. I had a lot to say about it, but I'm just, man, it's devastating to lose your best offensive lineman. Look, they took care of him during training camp. Outside of guys that were actually hurt, like, he didn't practice hardly at all. He got the most days off. I mean, they literally took care of this guy. They took care of him. And unfortunately, he still got hurt. Now, again, we got to hope and pray. I know some people are going to say, well, TJ Watt came back. He had a torn pec. And first of all, he wasn't the same. And I think we all know that. But number two, for an offensive lineman, you got a torn pec. What are you doing? I mean, you can't block. You can't push guys around. It's just not going to work. That's why when you see guys get a torn pec, they're out for the season. Because usually it's bad. They got to get it sewn back together. And, yeah, not good. Just not good. If he's out, who steps up? Who steps up? I mean, I talked about the Steelers getting an offensive lineman, which I think they will with this roster. They probably have to have two. Spencer Anderson, is he the guy? Mason McCormick, is he the guy? That's going to step in his place. I like McCormick better. If we keep it in-house as a new starter, I like McCormick just because he's nastier. Anderson, a technique guy, can't go wrong with that. But you know what? They both got the same number of starts, and McCormick's a rookie. That would be 0. Anderson's played in 8 games. I get it. But if it's me, throw me the guy out there that's going to play on it with an edge. Play with an edge. Got to work on his technique. We got to do that. We got to get him a little bit more fundamentally sound. But I would go with McCormick over Anderson if it were me. That's just me talking. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If Seumalo goes down, who do we pick up? And who do you want to start? Let me just ask that. Not who do we pick up, because we're never going to know till it happens. But who would you rather start if Seumalo goes down? So, next thing with the 53-man roster, what was the most surprising cut to you guys? See, to me, it was Jack Colletto. I thought Colletto was going to be on the roster, man. I loved what he was doing. And not just that, it's like you brought in one fullback only to cut him. Why? But why are you cutting this man? What was the purpose? And I get that McCole Pruitt, I get it that he's familiar with the offense. He's a good tight end, a good blocker. I'm not saying you should have cut him. I just thought you could have kept Colletto. I thought you could have kept him too. So that's just me. That was my most surprising cut. Most surprising guy that made the roster, I think we all probably feel the same about this one, is Jalen Elliott. I mean, he was out there at the end of the game in preseason game 3. He was out there, and yet he made the roster as a 5th safety. I don't know, man. I thought there were other guys, but if they didn't keep Ryan Watts, which they couldn't, he's on IR, and you knew Ryan Watts was my guy. I've been rooting for him forever. This was a surprise. I didn't see it coming either. Did not see it coming. Didn't think there was any chance that he'd make the team, but good for him. Good for him. Now, who's a player that you think, or I think, that's still on the bubble? I think it's still Scotty Miller. I still think it's Isaiah Loudermilk. I think both of those guys, along with Jalen Elliott, all 3 of those guys are still on the bubble. As I mentioned, man, this roster is not etched in stone. It's not. They just had to get down to 53. And now that they're there, they can still make a lot of moves. So we'll see what happens. If the Steelers go out and get a wide receiver, Scotty Miller's going to be off the football team because he definitely is the fifth guy, and they're not keeping six. They're just not. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Now, we'll get into that wide receiver thing here in a sec, but yeah, it doesn't make sense. I still didn't see a ton from Isaiah Loudermilk. Now, look, Loudermilk got a lot better from last year. A lot better. But we watched the preseason. He flashed a couple times in passing situations. But when it came to run stuffing, which is his primary job, he didn't look good at all. He didn't look good at all. So, like I mentioned before, that one, it surprised me. But it is what it is. It is what it is. And Loudermilk, he's on the team. Then we gotta root for him to do better. But I think him, Elliott, and Scotty Miller, if the Steelers bring in outside help, I think those are the people to go because, look, the Steelers are keeping 8 defensive linemen. 8 in a 3-4 front. Now, granted, I know they run a lot of nickel. I do know that. And they're going to run a lot of 4-down linemen. But 8 seems a lot when your base defense is a 3-4. It just seems like a lot. So, I don't know. But maybe obviously they feel comfortable with it. Not maybe. They obviously feel very comfortable with who they got. Look, we got Hayward, Lario, who had a great camp. Lowry was hurt, came back, played well. Leal is going to get reps, not only D-line, but outside linebacker. That's why they didn't keep a fourth outside linebacker, although I'm not positive they're not going to go try to find one. Logan Lee, Loudermilk and Logan Lee. I think they kept Logan Lee because they like him. He's not ready to play quite yet, but they also knew if you cut him, somebody's going to scoop him up and put him on their practice squad. I don't think the Steelers thought he was going to get to their practice squad, and that's why they kept him. Then, you got the beast, Keanu Benton and Martravius Adams, both beasts inside. I look for Benton to have a big year. He's figured it out. He knows how to be a pro. Look for Benton to have a big, big year for the Pittsburgh Steelers.